Hey everyone, welcome back to The Deep Line, the podcast where we dive into those quiet corners of life that most people try to avoid. I'm John, and today we're touching on something that sounds simple, but isn't. We're talking about the risks of making the right decisions.
Hi, John. Hi, everyone listening. I'm really happy to be here. And honestly, this topic, it hits close to home because sometimes doing what's right doesn't feel like the safest choice. It feels like standing alone in a storm.
Yeah, there's that invisible cost people don't talk about. We're taught to follow our conscience, to do the right thing, but rarely are we warned about what it takes to live with integrity.
Exactly. I used to believe that the right decision was always the one that brought peace. But that's not true. Sometimes the right decision breaks your heart.
Can you share one of those moments?
Sure. I think about a few years ago, I was working in a company that had a really toxic environment. People were underpaid, overworked, and management didn't care. I discovered some irregularities, money disappearing from the project budgets. I knew that speaking up could cost me my job, but keeping silent would mean becoming part of the corruption.
That must have been heavy.
It was. I remember sitting at my desk for days, just frozen. My rational mind said, stay quiet, you have bills, you have rent. But my conscience, it was louder. So I reported it. I lost my job a month later.
Wow. That's the paradox, isn't it? Doing the right thing can destroy your sense of stability.
Yes, and it's funny because neuroscience actually backs that up. Studies from Harvard in 2018 found that when people act against social or group norms, even for moral reasons, their brain reacts as if they were in physical danger. The amygdala lights up, triggering stress responses like fear or isolation.
That's fascinating. So our brains literally interpret moral courage as a threat.
Exactly, which explains why so many people hesitate to do what's right. It's not just emotional, it's biological.
It makes sense. Humans are social creatures. For thousands of years, being rejected by the group could mean death. So even today, doing the right thing when it separates us from others feels like stepping outside of the tribe.
That's such a powerful image, stepping outside of the tribe. I think that's why integrity feels lonely sometimes. You leave the warmth of belonging for the cold of truth.
But it's also what defines us. There's a study by the University of Zurich that shows how people who act according to their moral values, even at a personal cost, report higher long-term satisfaction. Short-term pain, long-term meaning.
I love that, because that's exactly what happened to me. At first, I felt lost, unemployed, scared, even angry. But over time, that decision gave me direction. I started working for a nonprofit where transparency actually mattered.
So the pain had a purpose.
Yes, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was clean. Like, I could finally look at myself in the mirror without flinching.
That's something we rarely talk about, the peace that comes after the chaos. The idea that doing what's right can hurt first, then heal later.
Exactly. And I think that's the part people misunderstand. They assume that right means easy or rewarding. But sometimes doing what's right means losing people, money, or even opportunities. Yet it brings a kind of quiet strength, like your soul stops whispering and starts resting.
That's beautiful. There's also data supporting what you just said. A Stanford psychology review from 2020 suggested that moral consistency, living in alignment with your values, reduces cognitive dissonance, which in turn lowers anxiety and depression in the long run.
So even when you lose something external, you gain something internal.
Exactly. And maybe that's what real success is. Not comfort, but coherence.
Yes. I used to think success was about stability, having a secure job, a plan. But now I think success is when your inner voice and your outer life finally agree.
That's a perfect way to say it. And yet, even knowing that, It's not easy to choose the harder path.
Of course not. We're wired to avoid pain. But maybe courage isn't about ignoring fear. It's about feeling it fully and still walking forward.
I love that. Feeling it fully and still walking forward.
Yeah, I think every right decision carries risk. But what's worse than risk is regret. The kind that follows you at night when you know you stayed silent when you shouldn't have.
That's the real danger. Not losing, but not living truthfully.
We're going to pause here for a moment. In the second part of this episode, we'll explore how to recover from the consequences of right decisions and how science says our brains can actually grow stronger after moral adversity.
Yes, because choosing what's right might break you for a while, but it also rebuilds you into someone you can finally trust.
Beautifully said. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. In the first half, we talked about how doing what's right can come with a real cost. Emotional, financial, even social. But now we want to talk about what happens after. How do you rebuild when the right choice has left you shattered?
That's such an important question, John. Because when you make a moral decision that costs you something, it's not like you immediately feel proud or free. Sometimes you just feel empty.
Yes, it's that quiet aftermath. You've done what you believed was right, but all you can see are the consequences. The people who walked away, the opportunities that disappeared, the silence that follows.
Exactly. And what's worse, you start doubting yourself. Was it worth it? Did I overreact? You replay the moment over and over. It's like the mind punishes you for having principles.
That's actually very human. There's a term psychologists use, post-decisional regret. Studies from the University of Chicago show that after a morally difficult choice, even if we did the right thing, our brain still creates self-doubt as a protective mechanism. It's the mind's way of searching for control after chaos.
That makes so much sense. I remember after I lost my job, I couldn't stop questioning if I could have handled things differently. But over time, that reflection slowly became something else, understanding.
And that transformation is key. There's a beautiful concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It refers to how people don't just recover from moral pain, they can actually grow stronger because of it.
Right, I've read about that. It's not the pain itself that transforms us, but what we do with it.
Exactly. Researchers at the University of North Carolina found that people who process moral struggles, like standing up for truth, leaving toxic systems, or even ending dishonest relationships, often experience higher empathy, deeper relationships, and a clearer sense of purpose afterwards.
That's incredible, and I felt that. I think doing the right thing stripped away my illusions. It forced me to rebuild my identity, not around approval, but around values.
That's powerful. And that's what resilience really is. Not bouncing back to who you were, but becoming someone wiser because of what broke you.
You know what's interesting, John? I used to think resilience meant never falling apart. Now, I think it means learning to be kind to yourself while you do.
Yes, that self-compassion piece is so underrated. Neuroscientist Kristen Neff has done a lot of work showing how self-compassion helps regulate our emotional systems after moral distress. It lowers cortisol levels and activates the vagus nerve, helping the body move from survival mode back to calm.
That's fascinating. So even biologically, forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, helps us heal after those hard decisions?
Exactly. Because courage without compassion can become cruelty toward ourselves.
I wish more people knew that. Sometimes we make the right decision, but then we keep punishing ourselves for how much it hurt.
Yeah, and that's where the real danger lies. Not in the loss, but in losing ourselves afterward.
True. I think that's why reflection matters. Writing, therapy, even just long walks. Giving the soul space to breathe after the storm.
There's actual data behind that too. A study from the University of Texas found that people who wrote expressively about moral struggles showed improved immune function and emotional regulation after just a few weeks. Words literally heal.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like turning pain into meaning is medicine.
Exactly. And meaning, I think, is the secret ingredient in all recovery. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, wrote that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how.
Yes, I've always loved that because meaning doesn't erase pain. It just gives it a home.
Beautifully said. And when we find that meaning, we stop seeing our right decisions as losses. We start seeing them as beginnings.
That's true. Sometimes I look back at my life and realize that every time I made a hard but right decision, something inside me grew. Patience, empathy, courage. None of those came from easy choices.
Same here. I once turned down a big opportunity because I found out the company was misleading its clients. I remember lying awake at night thinking I had ruined my career. But that single no opened the door to everything I do now.
It's incredible how integrity reroutes your life, slowly, quietly. You lose the map, but you gain direction.
Exactly. And maybe that's what this whole conversation comes down to. The risk of doing what's right is real, but so is the reward. It just doesn't come in the form we expect.
Yes, it's not applause or money. It's peace. It's being able to sleep at night without a war in your head.
And that's priceless.
So maybe the message is this. Making the right decision might cost you comfort, but it buys you clarity. And that's a trade worth making.
Absolutely. To everyone listening, if you're in that difficult place right now, wondering whether to take the hard path, just know this. Fear is natural. Loss is possible. But truth is always worth it. Science says your brain will adapt, your heart will heal, your life, though shaken, will find balance again.
And one day you'll look back and realize that the moment you thought was your breaking point was actually your becoming point.
That's the perfect way to end it.
Thank you for this conversation, John. It's been healing just to talk about it.
Thank you, Laura. And to everyone listening, keep choosing what's right, even when it hurts, because that's where real freedom begins.